Lord, you call us to leave our nets and follow you. May we have the courage and strength to answer your call. Amen. So one of the joys of marriage is getting to know your spouse's family history and habits. I recently learned that Matt's mom used the exact same phrase my mom always did when I was a teenager, headed out with friends to youth group or to the movies or to beach week. Stay safe and have fun. To which apparently Matt would always reply, wait, which one? He was more clever than I. I guess this is a pretty common thing for parents of youth and young adults, and even not so young adults, to say to their children. I think it is a near universal feeling for parents to want their children to go and have adventures and enjoy time with friends and experience life. Hence, have fun. But of course, there is also the universal parental desire for their kids to have these fun life experiences while also making good choices, to avoid hurting themselves or anyone else, hence the stay safe. Stay safe and have fun. As adolescents grow up and find their own path in life, sometimes the parent's role is to simply trust that they have instilled the right values in their offspring, and then to support the decisions and callings of their sons and daughters, while encouraging them, of course, to stay safe and have fun. But sometimes that is hard. Imagine, if you will, for me, this scene. You are mildly annoyed. Even though they are all grown up now, Johnny and Jimmy still have to be reminded to check the nets for holes or weak strands. No wonder yesterday's catch was pathetic. Still, it is nice to have them here with you, mending the nets and doing inventory of the fishing equipment. To their credit, your boys are great with the boat, and they always show up when you ask them to. Particularly James. He is definitely your stereotypical firstborn. You're proud of the way you raised them. You taught them to love God, and you taught them to fish. What more could a man need? And you're proud of the way they turned out. You wonder if you tell them that often enough. You start to say it now, but you figure they already know. You notice that your boys seem a bit restless today, distracted. You chalk it up to boredom. Yes, the life of a fisherman is monotonous. Yes, the smell of fish never really does get out of your hair or your clothes. Yes, the labor is strenuous. But the income is steady. And the view of the sun setting over the lake is pure gold. It's a good life. It's a safe life. You're so lost in your own thoughts that you didn't even notice the stranger on the beach, until you hear him call out something towards your vessel, which is not too far from the shore. You squint, trying to see him better, but the sun is in your eyes. Is this the man that you've heard folks talking about? You try to remember exactly what you've heard about him, but you don't really usually pay all that much attention to gossip and idle chatter. You see your boys exchange a look, communicating as only brothers can. Then James turns to you and says, "Dad, we've got to go." He takes your hand and squeezes it. The gesture is gentle, but rushed. John, your younger, more sensitive boy, says simply, "Dad, we love you." His eyes are brimming. Before you know what is happening, your two sons have jumped out of the boat and they are running together towards the shadowy figure on the beach. Your head is dizzy with confusion, but you somehow comprehend in that moment that what has just happened is important. Somehow you choke out a few words, something about staying safe and having fun, and then you look down, only to see a half-mended net on the floor of your empty boat. You pick up the net and continue to work, and you say a silent prayer for your sons. Did you notice Zebedee when we heard the lesson from Matthew? He is not at all the focus of the story, and so he is easy to miss. But can you imagine how he is feeling when both of his sons abruptly leave him to answer a call that seems to come out of nowhere with no warning? Transitioning to being an empty nester is hard enough. But in this story, Zebedee loses both of his sons at once and both of his fishing business colleagues at once. And the way Matthew tells the story, there isn't even time for a proper goodbye. It must have been all he could do to whisper a quick, "Stay safe and have fun," as James and John climbed out of the boat to follow this peculiar and compelling itinerant preacher. Can you imagine what Zebedee must have felt then in the days to come? Grief? Definitely. Bewilderment? Certainly. Anger? Probably. Pride? Maybe. Curiosity? Perhaps. Do you remember Randy's opening day sermon from way back in September? Some of you may recall the story he told about the father of a senior about to graduate from college, who called up the college chaplain, furious that his daughter had decided to put aside her graduate school plans to go do mission work in Haiti. The father held the chaplain personally responsible for this influence. But the chaplain pointed out that the blame for this situation could only be placed on the parents themselves. They were the ones who had her baptized. They were the ones who took her to Sunday school. They let her go on the youth group mission trip. The chaplain said to the irate father, "You're the one who introduced her to Jesus, not me." We don't know whether Zebedee reacted like the father of the young Haiti-bound missionary, terrified and upset because the faithful values that he tried to instill in his child actually took root. Or if Zebedee eventually came to understand and appreciate the role that his sons would play in the ministry of this prophetic figure. We don't know if Zebedee became a disciple of Jesus. Was he one of the faces in the crowds that gathered to hear the Sermon on the Mount? Was he one of the 5,000 who feasted on 5 loaves and 2 fish? Did he hear Jesus preach about the parable of the sower? And did his heart swell with pride because clearly his sons are good soil? Oh, Zebedee, did you start to understand that your sons were more concerned with being righteous than being safe? That they'd rather have faith than have fun? Zebedee, did you pray for them? We do not know the rest of Zebedee's story, but we know our story. We know that, of course, we want safety and fun for those whom we love dearly. And that is a good and joyful and appropriate thing. But we also know that sometimes the call to discipleship must be answered. Discipleship can be fun, but it is rarely safe. It is rarely safe because it involves taking the risk of being open and vulnerable. It means entering into relationship with other people. Remember, the primary ministry that those first disciples are called into is a relational one. James, John, Simon Peter, and Andrew had been in the tilapia business. But now, they're in the people business. They're in the relationship business. When Jesus calls them, he does not ask for resumes. He does not care about their skill set or their prior experience. He simply says, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of people." Fishing for people is going to bring these Galilean men into relationship with an entirely new population. The least, the lost, the sick, the hungry, the sinful, and with Christ himself. Maybe some of us, like James and John, are called to forsake safety in favor of righteousness and faith. Maybe we are called to leave the security of our homes and jobs and families to be fishers of people. And maybe some of us are called to be Zebedees, to nurture and raise up disciples, to understand that sometimes the nets must be dropped before the mending is complete. And to be supportive of those who pick up and follow Jesus to Haiti, to the east end of Richmond, to the cross. To close today, I want to invite you to ponder that call of Jesus, which is first and foremost relational. And I want to invite you to take a moment and think of someone with whom you are in relationship. A parent, a child, a friend, a spouse, a colleague, somebody who is called to discipleship, somebody you can support with your prayer. And so I invite you to take a moment now and lift up this person in your prayers. Amen.